There's a moment in every wealth journey that almost nobody talks about. It's not when you hit your first $100,000. It's not when you pay off your car. It's not even when you max out your 401k. It's the moment your retirement becomes inevitable. The moment where, even if you never invested another dollar again, time and compounding would do the rest. And if that sounds like cheating, that's because most people never hear about it. But it's real. Nobody wants to grind forever. Nobody wants retirement to depend on being perfect for the next 30 years. Here's what almost nobody tells you. There's an exact mathematical moment when your contributions stop being the main thing moving the needle, when your portfolio starts growing faster than you can reasonably save. And no, it's not when you're 65. That's the default script. Today I'm going to show you two moments. The crossover point, when your portfolio's growth beats your contributions, and the coast fi moment, when you no longer need to contribute for retirement to work on schedule. I'll show you the actual numbers, how close you might already be, and how to calculate your own coast fi number, even if you're starting late. If this kind of clarity matters to you, hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who's tired of feeling behind. Let's get into it. There are two engines in every investing journey. Engine one is loud and painful, your contributions. This is the money you manually add from your paycheck. Early on, it's everything. It feels like you're pushing a boulder uphill. Engine two is quiet and invisible, compounding. In the beginning, it feels disappointing. A few hundred here, a few thousand there. Not enough to feel real. But these two engines don't stay equal. One fades, and the other becomes unstoppable. And at some point, the math flips. That flip is called the crossover point. The crossover point is simple. It's the moment your portfolio's annual growth exceeds your annual contributions. That's it. That's when you go from pulling your portfolio forward to your portfolio pulling itself. Let's make it concrete. Say you're investing $20,000 per year into broad index funds, and we assume a long-run average return of 7%, just to keep the math simple. At $100,000 invested, 7% growth is $7,000. Your contribution is still doing most of the work. You're the engine. At $300,000 invested, 7% growth is $21,000. Now you're roughly even. You and compounding are sharing the load. At $500,000 invested, 7% growth is $35,000. Now your $20,000 contribution starts to look small. Compounding's the main character. At $1 million invested, 7% growth is $70,000. At that point, your contribution isn't useless, but psychologically, it becomes a rounding error next to what the portfolio is doing by itself. This is why people say it gets easier after the first few $100,000, because early on, you're pushing a boulder uphill. But somewhere around that $300,000 to $500,000 range, depending on how much you save, the boulder starts rolling on its own. Now here's where this becomes useful, because once you understand the crossover point, you can run a thought experiment that answers the question people are scared to ask. What happens if I stop contributing at different points? Same assumptions. $20,000 per year, 7% average growth, aiming for $1 million. If you contribute the whole way through, you hit $1 million in roughly 23 years. That's the baseline. Now watch what happens if you stop at different checkpoints. If you stop at $100,000, it might take around 5 years to get there. But stopping that early can cost you decades because you haven't hit critical mass yet. You're still doing almost all the work. Stop at $300,000 instead. Maybe that takes about 11 years of contributing. From there, compounding has enough mass to carry you the rest of the way in something like 18 more years, around 29 years total. So compared to the baseline, you only lose about 6 years. Now the wild one. Stop at 500,000. Maybe that takes about 15 years of contributions. From there, compounding can double it to 1 million in roughly 11 more years, around 26 years total. That means stopping at 500,000 only delays your $1 million milestone by about 3 years. And this is the point of the whole video. Halfway to $1 million is not halfway in time. Once you reach critical mass, your portfolio starts doing so much work that your ongoing contributions matter less in relative terms. Now we need to separate two ideas. Contributions don't matter anymore, and I don't need to invest anymore are not the same thing. The crossover point is a psychological shift. The true you no longer need to invest for retirement moment is called coast-fi. Coast-fi means you have enough invested today that, even if you never add another dollar, compounding should still grow it into your retirement goal by your target age. That doesn't necessarily mean early retirement. It usually means freedom from pressure. You can work fewer hours, take a lower paying job you actually enjoy, start a business, or stop feeling like one bad year ruins your future. Now let's walk through the math simply. First, decide how much you want to spend in retirement. Let's say $70,000 per year. Next, subtract income you expect without selling investments, like Social Security. Let's estimate $25,000. That means your portfolio needs to generate $45,000 per year. Using a common 4% withdrawal framework, that gives you a target portfolio of $45,000 divided by 0.04 equals $1,125,000. That's the finish line. Now here's the part most people never actually see written out. To find your coast-fi number, you take that target and divide it by compound growth over time. In plain English, the equation looks like this: target portfolio divided by 1 plus real return to the power of n, where real return is your expected return after inflation, and n is the number of years until retirement. So in this example, assuming a conservative 5% real return and 30 years until retirement, 1,125,000 divided by 1.05 to the 30th power. That comes out to roughly $260,000. Meaning if you're about 30 years from retirement and you have around $260,000 invested, you don't need to add another dollar for retirement to still work on schedule. Not because markets are guaranteed, but because time and compounding are now doing the heavy lifting. That's coast-fi. That's the moment the pressure starts to come off. Before coast-fi, missing contributions feels dangerous. After coast-fi, your job becomes simpler. Don't screw it up. Stay invested. Don't panic sell. Don't raid the account. Don't let lifestyle inflation eat the freedom you just created. And yes, contributions still matter, but after critical mass, they matter more for risk reduction than for making retirement possible. They buy you margin. They buy you safety. They buy you options. If you only focus on retire someday, you'll burn out. Instead, track the milestones that signal the machine is working. First $10,000, proof the habit exists. First $100,000, compounding starts to feel real. The crossover point, growth beats contributions. When your portfolio earns more than you do in a year, surreal, but it happens. Your coast-fi number, contributions become optional. When investments cover essentials, the first real taste of security. And when work becomes optional, the end game. Your investing journey isn't one long grind to 65. It's a series of shifts. Early on, you are the engine. Then compounding becomes your co-pilot. Then compounding becomes the driver. And eventually, if you stay in the game long enough, you reach that surreal moment where your contributions don't feel like the main thing anymore, because your money is finally pulling its own weight. So wherever you are right now, starting from zero, chasing $10,000, climbing toward 100,000, pushing for that 300,000 to 500,000 crossover range, just remember, you're not just saving, you're building a machine. And once the machine gets big enough, it doesn't need you pushing forever. It just needs you to not get in the way. If this video helped bring clarity to your plan, hit like and subscribe. It helps more people find calm, realistic financial guidance. Also drop a comment. What milestone are you chasing right now? 10,000, 100,000, or that crossover point? This is Minecraft, where ideas become action and action becomes your future.